Hi guys, John Carswell here. Thanks for tuning in today. I want to go over with you Matthew chapter 1, which is the first of the four Gospels in the New Testament. Jesus. It's not just a curse word. There's a story behind the name. And in this first chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, we see two important aspects of that story. The first half of the chapter is a genealogy where Matthew traces Jesus' ancestors all the way back to Abraham. It was common practice in ancient Israel for Jews to be able to recite their lineage as a way of demonstrating their legitimate connection to the promises of God and to their belonging in the nation of Israel. But Matthew's list about Jesus is an interesting one because there's some characters in there that you wouldn't expect to see. Now, there's folks like Tamar and Rahab and Ruth and Bathsheba. Now, each of those ladies has a fascinating story, but it's not so much their story as the fact that there were women in a genealogical list that was typically traced through the father. But it's not just the ladies who are interesting. There's some unsavory men in there as well, sort of like your Uncle Lester, who makes everyone a little uncomfortable at the Christmas dinner. The second half of that story is one you're probably a little more familiar with. It's the Christmas story where Matthew writes, "Mary will give birth to a son, and you shall call him Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins." Now, just as the psalmist did in that first chapter of the Psalms, Matthew's doing the same thing here by introducing a character to us, and one who is familiar and yet unfamiliar at the same time. And it was intended to invite the readers of his day to ask the question, what is religion actually all about? Because already in these first chapters, Jesus has shattered the mold of what you typically think about as religion. Now ask yourself, what do you think of as religion? Typically we think, well, you have to be nice, you have to be good, you have to go to church, and when you go to church there's a particular kind of clothing you have to wear, you have to behave in a particular way. But what is it really all about? If you remember the discussion we had about the prophet Isaiah, there's sham religion and there's true religion. And you'll see as we go through Matthew that Jesus shattered that notion of what religion was. And he did that by hanging out with people that the religious people of his day had decided were really not quite ready for religion. People like tax collectors, sinners, and prostitutes. He hung out with people who were sick, those who were broken, those who were mentally deranged. And in doing so, he broke down some very, very well-established social boundaries between religion and the people of the world. And by introducing Jesus at the very beginning of the gospel as one who kind of had some of those skeletons in his closet himself, Matthew is showing us that Jesus is for all people and that there's no one who is outside the bounds of his love and invitation. So as you start to read this first gospel, whether it's your very first time reading it or whether it's your 100th time reading it, I want your prayer to be the same. And that is that God would take Jesus off the pages of Scripture and bring him into your living room and into your life. He was a real character who did some really amazing things. And he's got a real invitation for you and for me to begin a new life with eyes that see things that we may have missed before. Take some time today and have a think about those things, and may God bless you in the doing of it. If you like this video and you want to see more, just click subscribe, take your notification bell, and if you liked it, then give me a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.